Hello and welcome back to this damnful idealistic crusade. This video is something I've thought about doing for some time and is what I like to refer to as the Mckays challenge. Now, Mckays Bookstore is a particular chain of very substantially large bookstore locations, primarily here in the Southeast. They have several locations in Tennessee, and I believe North Carolina as well. Now, if you've never been to one, they are primarily selling new and used books, but also pretty much all forms of media, from movies across formats to games, and then even bits of tech, musical equipment, microphones, computer parts, toys, games, basically any type of media or collectible. You'll probably find some version of it in there at some point. I've found so many incredible odds and ends, or things that I never thought I'd discover, or UK printings or imports, or so I basically refer to it as sort of the black hole of media, in terms of you never know what will pop up there. And if you're willing to dig around one of their massive stores, you can find fantastic bargains, because they will sell, they have a substantial bargain DVD section where they'll sell DVDs for 95 cents or a quarter, but then their books are the primary draw, because the selection is massive, and they will sell books in perfect condition for as low as $1 or 75 cents or 50 cents or a quarter or 10 cents, or in some cases 5 cents. And they even have a free area at the front of their store, which is where they put all of the trades that were rejected and nobody wanted them. So there is at least a nice idea of recycling media in that way. So basically every time any sort of book person or cinephile or anyone interested in physical media sets foot in one of these stores, you're going to have something you take with you, if not a shopping cart full, and then you regret everything, because you come out with even more stuff and you're like, what have I done? I have no space left. So what I like to do is I try to bring something to trade in every time I go. But the challenge I kind of set myself is, okay, what can you do with $5 or $10 in about an hour or so? So most of the time I'm thinking, okay, if you have 1 hour and $10, that should be the Mckays challenge. How much physical media or books can you get in that span of time without going over that threshold? Again, not counting if you have trade credits. So I decided to finally do that, and so I've decided to go over the stack of books and other things that I was able to pick up in that short amount of time with just a few dollars. Now, to start, I like going to Mckays to be able to look for some of the series books that I collect, especially some of the more obscure ones. And every once in a while, you find certain issues or things in the respective sections, because they do nicely have things sectioned out by category in their massive shelves. But I was able to find another of the Indiana Jones offshoots in terms of books and young adult books and things, and they had one of the Choose Your Own Adventure books for the Young Indy series. This is the fourth, which deals with the episode where Young Indy is in Paris and at the Louvre. But I just never expected to find another one of these, and this was only a nickel. So 5 cents. That was unbelievable. It's in nice shape with, of course, all the illustrations. And I've read the first 3 of these, but I just never thought I'd find another one. These are nice, pretty much simple choose your own adventures based on episodes from the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles. So it's a nice part of the printed history of Indy and the Young Indy series, but not something that you see really discussed much, and definitely not something you find anymore. This one I didn't necessarily need, but it was in perfect shape, so it's kind of an upgrade copy to my very worn edition. But they had a perfect copy of book 45 in the Hardy Boys case files, and this was like 95 cents in perfect shape, and a first printing as well. And this is one of my favorite books in the case files. This is one of the first case files I ever owned, so I couldn't resist a perfectly mint condition first printing for less than $1. So anytime I see that's primarily what I started going to Mckays for, is looking for Hardy Boys editions, because every once in a while they have super minty copies of the various series for dirt cheap. Similarly, they had one of the Undercover Brothers. This is book 33. see, this is one of the ones I don't have. And so I've been chipping away at even this series at McKay's locations where this only cost me 50 cents. And I was like, yes. This, of course, is done in the same style as the other Undercover Brothers editions, and it's part of one of the multi-book arcs that this series sort of turned into around this time when they got up into the 20s and 30s in terms of the numbers of volumes. I also pick up Nancy Drew editions when I find them for cheap, so they had a rather nice copy of book 71 of the Nancy Drew Digest. This is the later minstrel version with the updated cover art, but it's otherwise in perfect shape and just has a bit of browning on the actual pages, but still is perfectly fine, no odor or anything. And if I see a Hardy Boys or Nancy Drew edition and it's in great shape and it's a cover art version I don't have and it's less than $1, it pretty much has my name on it. I also love finding novelizations there because they're sort of scattered in different areas, but I didn't actually realize this movie had a novelization, and it's a movie I did quite enjoy. So Hard Case Crime, which is the great modern sort of crime imprint that is keeping the pulp crime flag flying, published a novelization of the Shane Black film The Nice Guys. And this is the slimmed down mass market paperback version. And of course, me being a novelization geek, I was all over this. And so I'm super excited to read this. I didn't even know this had a novelization. And that's the other thing about going to Mckays. You will find stuff that you didn't even know existed. And then you also put that in your overflowing shopping basket. And then you get to your car and you're like, what have I done? I have too many books. I've always tried to read more Eric Ambler, or at least I've always meant to, and they had a nice condition copy of his The Light of the Day and the really nice modern Vintage Crime reprint series that I love all the Black Lizard and Vintage Crime paperbacks from the 90s and 2000s. So I do want to get all of their printings of Ambler novels. But I've wanted to read this for a long time because as the cover indicates, this is the book that was the inspiration for Topkapi, the classic film that Jules Dassin made, and of course starred Peter Ustinov and has the famous heist sequence that Brian De Palma basically riffed on for the first Mission Impossible film. So this has been on my read list for a super long time, and this was incredibly cheap. I love rating their film section and their cinema books and their biographies because I've been able to finally read various books that are super expensive that they will sell for super cheap, especially biographies, because I went through this time and found the nice modern reprinting of Fred Astaire's autobiography in this nice paperback, nice attractive art, pretty much still in perfect shape. There's just a little wear on the front, and this was only 75 cents. You see why I can't set foot in this store, because if I do, I'm going to get more books. So this is just a book I've always meant to read, and I really loved Ginger Rogers' autobiography, and of course, she wrote the foreword for this, so it makes a nice matching paperback to the paperback I have of her book. Now, this is another series that I've read on and off over the years, but I didn't have all the books, and that's the Anthony Horowitz Alex Rider series, which kind of had a hiatus for a while. They were really big in the early to mid-2000s, and then he was doing other things, and then came back to this series a couple years ago, and so now there's several more, and this was just one I didn't have a physical copy of. He, of course, wrote the trilogy of James Bond novels when he had started going back to doing the Alex Rider books. So I think the series is now kind of back on in terms of, full steam ahead. But this is just a particular edition I didn't have. This is the nicer hardcover edition with dust jacket. And even though this is technically still a young adult book, it's still usually a bit more expensive for the hardcover version. And as you can see, this perfect edition copy was at the low price of $1. You see why I can't go here and not buy things. Similarly, I've always meant to read all of Len Deighton's novels, particularly his spy novels, and I have a number of them in paperback, of course, primarily the sort of Secret Files books that became transformed into the iconic Harry Palmer films in the 1960s with Michael Caine. But I've always meant to read all of his later books from the 70s and 80s and beyond. And McKay's had this nice hardcover edition of Spy Hook, perfect dust jacket, nice artwork, lovely glossy photo of Dayton on the back. Even has the nice edged pages and everything, And as you can see here, this was only a quarter. Again, I can't go here and not buy books. I always try to at least peruse through their massive DVD bargain bin. And when I say bin, it's basically a long row of tables at my local store. And by tables, I mean massive. You have to basically just look at all the spines, and then they have big rolling carts underneath them. But I was able to find something I've tried to find for a while, which is the MGM Special Edition for Battle of Britain. And this, like A Bridge Too Far and or certain other MGM Special Edition DVDs, this has a whole second disc of extras with things that were not ported over to the various Blu-rays, which were basically movie only. And these are usually still pretty pricey to find. You can always tell them apart by the unique cover artwork and the fact that they had a booklet inside, and of course have a second disc with these extras. So I just always meant to find all of these, but they are rather uncommon and usually are still, can be over $20 at times if you're trying to buy them new, and they've been, out of print for a long while. So people usually know these are the ones that have the spiffier presentation and all the extras. But this was in the bargain bin and was 95 cents, so of course I was going to buy it. Now, these last two titles are where I get more into I spent a little bit more because I did have some trade credit. So everything you see here was basically $10 and under, and then I had that little bit of trade credit, so I splurged a little bit because these were quite cheap for what their normal prices are. And I was stunned to find the Sony MOD, essentially, Blu-ray of The Heroes of Telemark, which, of course, is an Anthony Mann-directed film, and I'm a Mann fanatic, so I've just meant to get this for ages. This is from their sort of manufactured on demand program, so it's not a disc you're going to find in stores. It does have a more premium price tag of more like $25 to $30. And you can definitely tell this by the fact that it just has a plain white label, as all of these MOD Sony discs do. But this is the best presentation of the film, and while it's still an older master, it is better than the old DVD, and it's just been on my wish list, and I kind of did a double take when I saw this, and I'm like, wait, how did this get here? So I splurged a little because this was only $8. So I'm like, yes, I can do that. Every once in a while, I splurge a little bit when I find stuff there, because like this, you don't expect this to pop up, especially in a bookstore where you wouldn't think that there'd be somebody trading in a copy of the MOD Blu-ray of The Heroes of Telemark, but lo and behold, this is why I call it the black hole of physical media, because you never know what's going to pop up there. And then last but not least is a title I've meant to pick up for years, and I've just every time I look for it, I can't find a copy at a good price, or I can't find a used copy that looks complete or doesn't have scratch discs and things. And this was there and still sealed, so I was like, you know what? This finally means I'm gonna get this thing and be able to review the transfers, which is the VCI release of the Zorro's Cliffhanger Collection, which brings together the three primary Republic serials based on the iconic Fox Zorro, and this also means it has their transfer of Zorro's Fighting Legion, which is the most famous and one of the best Republic serials. It's one of the best serials ever made. But I have the Roan disc of that, and I've always wanted to compare that to the VCI because that serial doesn't have a great transfer anywhere, but I've heard the VCI is actually pretty good. But this also has Zorro's Black Whip and Zorro Rides Again, so it brings together all three Zorro serials, and the VCI DVDs of the other two are really your best and only option for those serials. So this will get you their version of Zorro's Fighting Legion as well, and again, I'm just going to compare this to the Roan disc of that serial. And again, this is still sealed, even has the original DVD tag on the top, and was just a few bucks. So I was like, well, I guess I waited long enough to be able to find this super cheap sealed copy. Now, this is just a traditional thicker DVD case, and it just has the 3 discs inside. I believe each serial is just on a single disc. So again, I'm not expecting a whole lot from these transfers in terms of overall quality, and they're probably going to be around the quality level of the earlier Republic video releases these had, because these did at least get releases from Republic on VHS, and some, think all three did get a Laserdisc release, which I still want to check out, but I just haven't found those yet. But this is just one of the serial DVDs that I knew was a good solid version that I've just been meaning to pick up and just never got around to it, or never could find a used copy that wasn't expensive or all dinged up. So there you have it. Those are my McKay's finds for the McKay's challenge, which again, the last two I splurged a little bit because I had some trade credits, so they were basically free. So I was very happy to finally find the Zorro collection, but especially the Sony MOD disc of Heroes of Telemark as well. But this is just to show that if you're a book lover or a physical media person, if you go into a McKay's bookstore, you're not going to come out without having a big armful of stuff. And chances are you can do that and not spend more than $5 or $10, because they have some of the most astounding bargains in books and physical media that I think you can possibly find. So if you're on a road trip or you're in the area and you've never been to one, definitely stop and check one out. I know each one is a little bit different in terms of what they have and what their pricing is, but it's all basically around the same area, and you can find some fantastic bargains, especially on used books. So as always, I hope my babbles about books and physical media and film editions have been at least somewhat fun and informative. And again, if you are able to check out McKay's Bookstore, definitely do so and see if you can also do the McKay's challenge and see how much amazing physical media and books you can get for as little money as possible and not spending all day there. Because if you do, you're gonna fill your entire car up because you're just gonna find so much stuff. But as always, please keep supporting your local independent bookstores like McKay's to help keep them in business. Keep reading print books, and as always, thank you ever so much for watching.